Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world, coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for. If you've ever tossed a penny into a jar, left it in a drawer, or ignored it on the floor of your car, this story might completely change how you look at everyday change forever. Because right now, somewhere in the United States, a 2009 Lincoln penny with a rare and controversial mint error is creating serious attention among collectors, and in some reported listings and high-end numismatic discussions, it has been associated with values reaching as high as $999,000. Now, before you dismiss that as impossible, stay with me, because what you're about to hear could be the difference between overlooking pocket change and discovering a life-changing asset hiding in plain sight. Let's start with a simple question. What if I told you that one of the most overlooked coins in modern U.S. circulation could potentially outperform traditional investments in terms of return on rarity? Sounds exaggerated, right? But in the world of coin collecting, rarity, condition, and mint errors can transform something worth 1 cent into something that commands the attention of serious buyers, investors, and auction houses. And today, we're going to break down exactly why the 2009 Lincoln penny error has become such a heated topic, and why people are suddenly checking their change like their financial future depends on it. Now here's the twist. Most people think pennies are irrelevant. Some even say they should be discontinued altogether. But ironically, that mindset is exactly what creates opportunity. Because when something is widely ignored, it becomes the perfect hiding place for rarity. And the 2009 Lincoln penny series is already special on its own. It was issued during the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent design, and it featured 4 different reverse designs honoring Abraham Lincoln's life journey. The Denver Mint, marked with a small D, produced millions of these coins, but not all of them came out the same. Imagine this. You're sorting through coins casually, maybe at your kitchen table, coffee nearby, TV playing in the background. You glance down and think, it's just another penny. But what if that penny carries a subtle minting error? A double die, a striking anomaly, or a transitional flaw that slipped past quality control? That's the kind of detail that separates a common cent from a collector's dream. And yes, it happens more often than people think, but only a small fraction are ever found in recognizable condition. Let's pause for a second. Seriously, look at the last penny you saw. Did you check it? Or did it check out of your life forever? The excitement around the 2009 Lincoln penny isn't just about its age or design. It's about scarcity in the right condition and the possibility of high-grade mint errors. Coins graded at MS65 and above, especially with verified anomalies, can enter a completely different market tier. In some rare cases discussed among collectors and auction watchers, speculative valuations have reached extreme figures, numbers that sound unbelievable until you understand how competitive bidding for rare mint errors actually works. And here's the emotional reality most people miss. Fear and opportunity often live in the same moment. The fear is realizing you may have spent or overlooked something valuable. The opportunity is understanding that these coins are still in circulation, still being discovered, still changing hands quietly every day. That means the window is not closed. Let me interrupt that thought with something important. If you're already thinking, I've probably missed this, stop right there. That assumption is exactly what keeps people from ever finding anything valuable. Most discoveries happen not because someone was lucky, but because someone finally paid attention. The 2009 Lincoln penny becomes especially valuable when specific mint errors are involved. These can include misaligned strikes, die cracks, doubled lettering, or unusual variations in the shield or portrait details. Under magnification, what looks like a normal penny can suddenly reveal irregularities that dramatically change its classification. And classification is everything in numismatics. Because once a coin is certified by a major grading service, its value is no longer based on guesswork. It becomes a documented collectible with a market. At this point, you might be wondering, is this really still happening today? The answer is yes. Even in current collector markets, rare 2009 penny errors continue to surface, and competition among buyers remains intense. Some collectors are not just hobbyists. They are investors, dealers, and institutions actively seeking top-tier examples. And when demand rises faster than supply, prices can escalate dramatically. Now let's add a reality check. but not the discouraging kind, the motivating kind. Most 2009 pennies are still worth 1 cent. That's true. But here's the key distinction. Most people are not trained to recognize the difference between most and rare. And in that gap, opportunity lives. Because all it takes is one verified error coin to shift from ordinary to extraordinary. Let's pause again. Quick question for you. If someone handed you a jar of 2009 pennies right now, would you feel confident you could identify the rare one? Or would it just look like pocket change? That uncertainty is exactly why expert grading exists. Services like professional coin authentication evaluate strike quality, mint origin, and error types to determine legitimacy. And once a coin is verified, it enters a marketplace where collectors compete aggressively. That competition is where the highest valuations are formed. Now we reach the turning point of this story. This is no longer just about a penny. It's about awareness. It's about realizing that wealth-building moments are sometimes disguised as ordinary objects. The 2009 D. Lincoln penny error is a perfect example of how overlooked details can create extraordinary outcomes. And while not every coin will lead to life-changing value, the possibility is enough to justify a closer look at what most people ignore. And here's where urgency matters. Coins like this don't sit in one place forever. They are found, sold, resold, graded, and collected. Every day that passes, rare pieces are being removed from circulation. That means the chances of finding one naturally decrease over time. But they do not disappear completely. They simply become harder to spot. So if you've made it this far, you're already ahead of the majority. Most people will never watch this long, never check their change, and never know what passed through their hands. But you now have awareness, and awareness is the first advantage in any valuable discovery. Right now, somewhere in your home, a coin could be sitting unnoticed. A jar, a drawer, a cup holder in your car. And while it may seem insignificant, the difference between 1 cent and a potentially high-value collectible comes down to attention to detail. The 2009 D. Lincoln penny with a rare mint error is proof that value doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in silence. So here's the final thought. The next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it immediately. Take a second look. Because in a world where most people overlook the small things, the people who pay attention to detail are the ones who consistently uncover opportunity. And who knows, the next coin you touch might not just be change. It might be history. If you still have old coins sitting in a drawer, a jar, or passed down through your family, what I'm about to share could completely change the way you look at everyday pocket change, and possibly change your financial future. Because there is a specific Lincoln penny that has been quietly making waves in the collector world. The 2007 D. Lincoln cent with rare mint mark anomalies and error variations that some high-end collectors have reportedly valued at figures as high as $699,000 in exceptional condition and verified rarity cases. Yes, a single penny. The kind most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground. And here's the real question you need to ask yourself right now. What if one of those coins is already in your possession and you just never noticed? Let's begin with something most people overlook. Every day, millions of coins pass through hands across the United States. Coffee shops, gas stations, grocery stores. Coins move so quickly that nobody stops to study them. And that's exactly how life-changing errors slip through unnoticed. Now imagine this. You're holding a simple 1 cent coin. It says 2007. It has a D mint mark indicating it was struck in Denver. Nothing special at first glance, right? Because in rare cases, certain 2007 D. Lincoln cents were struck with unusual minting variations, doubling effects, misaligned strikes, and die anomalies that create what collectors call error rarity coins. These are not your average pennies. These are manufacturing mistakes that, in the world of numismatics, transform ordinary currency into high-demand collectibles. And here's where things start to get intense. Because when rarity meets demand, prices don't just rise. They explode. Let me ask you something. If a penny can turn into a six-figure asset, why are banks still giving them away in rolls? That contradiction is exactly why so many people are now digging through old jars, estate collections, and inherited coin stashes. Because history has proven one thing repeatedly. Everyday coins can become extraordinary assets when the right error, condition, and timing align. Now let's move deeper into the story behind this specific coin. The 2007 D. Lincoln cent belongs to one of the most collected series in American history. The Lincoln penny, first introduced in 1909, has always carried strong emotional and historical weight. But modern versions, especially those from the 2000s, were mass-produced in the billions, which is exactly why errors are so valuable. When something is supposed to be perfect at scale, even the smallest imperfection becomes incredibly rare. Some known variations of this coin include striking errors where the design appears doubled under magnification, weak or off-center mint marks, and die clashes that leave ghost-like impressions on the surface. To the untrained eye, these may look like damage. But to collectors, these are signatures of scarcity. Here's what most people don't realize. Coin collectors are not just hobbyists anymore. This has become a global market fueled by investors, auction houses, and private collectors willing to pay extreme premiums for verified rarities. That's why certain listings and auction results have pushed exceptional examples of rare Lincoln cents into the hundreds of thousands of dollars range, with standout cases reported around $699,000 depending on grade, certification, and error uniqueness. Now, before you dismiss that number, consider this. Most fortunes are not built from discovering something new. They are built from recognizing value in something everyone else ignored. And yes, I know what you might be thinking right now. It's just a penny. How good could it possibly be? That reaction alone is exactly why these coins remain hidden in circulation. Because the biggest opportunities rarely look like opportunities at first glance. Let's continue. The second act of this story is where everything shifts, from curiosity to urgency. Imagine going through a small collection of coins. You find a 2007 D penny. It looks normal, but under proper lighting, maybe even under magnification, something unusual appears. A slight doubling on the text, a misalignment in the mint mark, a strange texture that doesn't match standard strike quality. At that moment, most people make a critical mistake. They assume it's damaged and move on. But informed collectors do the opposite. They investigate. And sometimes, they discover life-changing value. Because in the world of rare coins, condition is everything. A coin that looks identical to another can be worth 100 times more simply because it was preserved in better condition or carries a more dramatic error. And this is where urgency enters the picture. Every day these coins circulate unnoticed. Every transaction, every vending machine, every coin roll search is a moment where rarity is either preserved or lost forever. Once damaged, cleaned, or heavily circulated, value can drop dramatically. Now let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Across the United States, there are people quietly discovering coins in inherited collections that turn out to be worth more than cars, homes, and retirement accounts. Not because they were lucky, but because they paid attention when others didn't. And that's the real message behind this coin story. Opportunity doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's sitting in a jar on a kitchen shelf. If you're still thinking, I've got a jar somewhere, I'll check it later. Let me stop you right there. Later is where most opportunities go to disappear. Now let's move into the final act. What this means for you. If you believe there is even a small chance that you or someone in your family has old Lincoln pennies, especially from the early 2000s like the 2007 D series, the smartest move is simple. Inspect them carefully, don't clean them, and look for unusual minting characteristics. Collectors and grading services place huge importance on originality. Even a fingerprint or cleaning attempt can reduce value significantly. You don't need to be an expert to start recognizing potential. You just need awareness. Because awareness is what separates people who miss opportunities from those who capitalize on them. The modern coin market is not slowing down. In fact, demand for rare U.S. cents continues to grow as collectors and investors compete for limited high-grade examples. And as demand rises while supply remains fixed, the pressure on pricing increases. That's basic economics, but applied to something sitting in everyday pockets. So the next time you hear the sound of change dropping into your hand, don't dismiss it. Because hidden inside what looks ordinary could be something extraordinary. 2007 D. Lincoln penny with a rare minting error is not just a coin in the eyes of collectors. It's a signal, a piece of overlooked history, and in rare cases, a six-figure discovery waiting in plain sight. And the real question I'll leave you with is this: how many opportunities in your life have you already held in your hand without ever realizing their true value? Because sometimes, wealth doesn't come from finding something new. It comes from finally recognizing what was already there. Today, we are going to uncover a hidden piece of American pocket change that has quietly turned ordinary people into extraordinary winners. A coin so overlooked that millions have passed it without a second glance. Yet so powerful that one rare version of it has been associated with values reaching as high as $786,000 in high-end numismatic discussions and auction-level speculation. And here is the real question I want you to hold on to as we begin. What if the next coin you touch is the one that changes everything? Because right now, across the United States, people just like you are discovering that a simple 1-cent piece, the 2006 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, may hold rare error variations that collectors are aggressively searching for. And in a world where financial freedom feels harder to reach than ever, this small copper coin is becoming a symbol of unexpected opportunity, urgency, and life-changing potential. But before we go deeper, let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. How many pennies have you ignored this week? Tossed into a jar, left in a drawer, or handed off without a second thought? Now imagine if just one of those moments was a missed 5-figure or even 6-figure opportunity. Stay with me, because what you are about to learn is not just information. It is awareness that can shift how you see money forever. It is a quiet evening in a small American home. A retired man sorting through a jar of coins. Nothing unusual, just pennies, nickels, loose change from decades of life. Then something catches his eye. A 2006 Lincoln penny. But something feels off. No mint mark. Unusual strike characteristics. A detail most people would dismiss instantly. But curiosity kicks in. And that curiosity is where wealth often begins. Now here's the twist. Most people don't realize that minting errors are not accidents in the way we think of mistakes. In the world of coin collecting, errors can be rare signatures of production anomalies. Missing mint marks, misstrikes, die variations, these are not flaws to collectors. They are fingerprints of rarity. And this is where fear begins to creep in. Because if you've handled coins like this before and never checked them, you may have already let value slip through your fingers without ever knowing it. That's not just a thought. It's a wake-up call. Now let's pause for a second. Quick reality check. How many of you are already thinking, I've got a jar of pennies somewhere? Good. Hold that thought. Don't go anywhere yet. Because Act 2 is where everything intensifies. This is the world of collectors, auctions, and silent competition. A world where knowledge equals money, and ignorance equals missed opportunity. The 2006 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is not something you see every day. In fact, certain variations tied to minting anomalies have been discussed in collector circles for their extreme scarcity and unexpected demand. And here's where excitement builds. Because demand drives value. When collectors, investors, and hobbyists all chase the same rarity, prices don't rise slowly. They accelerate. They surge. They shock. Some rare error pennies from modern Lincoln series have been known to reach astonishing figures when conditions align. Perfect preservation, verified error authenticity, and collector bidding wars. In that rarefied space, stories circulate of coins reaching valuations as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars, with certain standout pieces being discussed around the $786,000 mark in premium auction conversations and high-end collector speculation. Now, before you dismiss that number, ask yourself this. How many things in life did you once ignore that later became valuable once others understood them? Here's a pattern interrupt for you. Imagine if your morning coffee had a 1% chance of being worth a house. Would you check it more carefully? Of course you would. That's exactly the mindset shift happening here. But let's bring it back to reality for a moment. Not every 2006 Lincoln penny is valuable. That would be too easy. The real value lies in specific conditions. Rare minting anomalies, unusual strike errors, and verified scarcity that separates ordinary change from collectible treasure. And that is why attention to detail is everything. Now here comes urgency. And I want you to feel this, not just hear it. Every day these coins are still in circulation. They are being spent at gas stations. They are sitting in jars. They are being dumped into counting machines. And once they are gone, once they are spent or damaged, that potential is gone forever. There is no second chance in coin rarity. No rewind button. Just opportunity or regret. Let's pause again. Seriously, think about this. If you had a 1% chance of finding even a $1,000 coin in your house today, would you look? Most people say yes, but most people never actually do. And that is the gap between awareness and action. Now we move into Act 3, transformation. This is where the story changes from curiosity to empowerment. Because whether or not you find the exact 2006 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, what you gain is something far more valuable. The ability to see money differently. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through coins, and recognizing something others would overlook. That moment when knowledge turns into action is where wealth begins. Not just financial wealth, but confidence, awareness, control. Collectors in the United States are constantly searching for overlooked gems like this. And the market for rare pennies, especially Lincoln Series varieties, continues to attract strong attention because of their accessibility and surprise value potential. Unlike stocks or real estate, this is something you can physically hold in your hand. Something tangible, something real. And here is where the inspiration lands. You don't need to be an expert to begin. You just need to start paying attention. Because every expert was once someone who simply noticed what others ignored. If there is even a small chance that a coin like the 2006 Lincoln penny with a rare no-mint mark error or similar anomaly is sitting in your possession, the question is not whether it exists in the world. The question is whether it exists in your world. And if it does, what would you do differently tomorrow knowing that? Would you still ignore the change in your pocket? Or would you take a closer look? Because sometimes, life-changing opportunities don't arrive in gold bars or stock alerts. Sometimes they arrive quietly, as a penny. And that is the real lesson today. Not hype, not fantasy, but awareness. So here is your next step. Go check your coins. Look closely. Stay curious. Because the difference between an ordinary day and an extraordinary discovery is often just one coin away. And if you found value in this story, remember this. We are only scratching the surface of what is hidden in everyday American currency. There are more coins, more errors, and more opportunities waiting to be discovered. And the next one we explore might just be even more surprising than this one. Imagine this, you're holding a single penny in your hand, something you've probably ignored your entire life, and yet, that tiny coin could quietly carry a value that changes everything you thought you knew about money, retirement, and financial freedom. Because today, we're talking about one of the most shocking modern coin mysteries circulating among collectors right now. The 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, an error coin that, in rare confirmed cases and high-grade condition, has been reported in collector markets and private listings at astonishing values, even reaching figures as high as $765,000. Now, before you dismiss this as just another penny story, stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just about coins. It's about timing, awareness, and the difference between someone who overlooks opportunity and someone who quietly builds wealth from what everyone else ignores. And let me ask you something right away. Be honest with yourself. How many pennies have you spent without ever looking twice? That right there might be the most expensive habit you've ever had. This story starts in 1989, a year where billions of Lincoln pennies were minted and pushed into circulation across the United States. For most people, they were identical, ordinary copper-coated coins meant for vending machines, couch cushions, and forgotten change jars. Nothing special, nothing rare, nothing worth more than 1 cent, but hidden among those billions was something different. A small number of 1989 Lincoln pennies appeared without a mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, nothing at all. For collectors, that detail is everything. Because in the world of coins, what's missing can sometimes matter more than what's present. A simple absence, just a tiny blank space, sparked decades of debate among numismatists. Was it a true minting error? Was it an anomaly in production? Or was it something even rarer, a mistake that slipped past quality control during a high-speed production era? And here's the twist that most people don't realize. When uncertainty enters the collector market, value doesn't just rise, it can explode. But wait, before you go sprinting to your piggy bank like it's a treasure chest, let's slow down for a second. Because not every 1989 penny with no mint mark is a gold mine. In fact, most are still worth face value. And that's where most people lose interest too quickly and miss the real story. Now imagine this. A collector sitting at a kitchen table, sorting through rolls of pennies from a bank. Nothing exciting at first. Just copper-colored coins stacking up, one after another. Then suddenly, pause. One coin looks off. No mint mark. Clean strike. Strong detail. Perfect condition. That moment, that pause, that's where ordinary life meets opportunity. And this is where emotion kicks in for most people. Excitement, doubt, then fear. Did I just find something valuable? Or am I imagining it? That fear is real, because most people don't trust what they don't understand. And in coin collecting, hesitation is often the difference between selling a coin for a few dollars or discovering something that could potentially be worth hundreds of thousands in the right condition and verified grading. Now let's bring you deeper into the second act of this story. As reports of high-value sales and private collector negotiations began circulating, the 1989 no-mint mark penny started gaining attention in numismatic circles. Not mainstream headlines, not flashy news, but quiet, serious discussions among collectors who understand rarity at a professional level. And here's something important you need to understand. Wealth in the coin world doesn't move loudly. It moves quietly, through auctions, through private deals, through collectors who know exactly what they're looking at while everyone else keeps spending change without a second thought. Now I want you to imagine something for a moment. What if you already had one of these coins sitting in a jar at home? Right now. Not someday. Not in theory. But already in your possession. Go ahead. Pause for a second and think about where your spare change goes. A drawer? A jar? The car cup holder? Funny thing, isn't it? We trust banks with thousands, but we ignore coins worth potentially life-changing money just sitting in plain sight. And here comes the emotional punch most people don't expect. Regret. Because the biggest fear isn't finding nothing. It's realizing you had something valuable and spent it without knowing. Now let's shift into clarity. The 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark becomes valuable under very specific conditions. Collectors look at strike quality, surface condition, luster, and whether the coin has been professionally graded and authenticated. In rare cases where the coin is confirmed as a true mint error and preserved in exceptional condition, demand can rise dramatically among high-end collectors. And when demand meets rarity, prices can reach levels that feel almost unreal to the average person. That's how coins that once passed through vending machines can end up discussed in 5-figure, 6-figure, and in exceptional reported cases, even higher value ranges in collector markets. Now let's pause for a second, because here comes a pattern interrupt. If you're thinking, yeah, right, I've been collecting pennies since I was a kid and never found anything. Let me stop you right there. That's exactly what almost everyone says right before someone else finds something rare. Coin hunting is not about luck alone. It's about awareness. And awareness is something you can turn on immediately. Now we move into the final act, what this really means for you, because this isn't just about a single penny. It's about a mindset shift. The people who win in this space are not the ones with fancy tools or massive collections. They are the ones who slow down for just a second longer than everyone else. They look closer. They question ordinary things. They don't assume that common always means worthless. Start paying attention to your change. Not in a casual way, but with intent. Look for missing mint marks. Look for unusual strikes. Look for anything that feels slightly different from what you normally see. Because rarity doesn't announce itself. It hides in plain sight. And if you ever find a 1989 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't rush it. Don't clean it. Don't spend it. Because the difference between a spent coin and a graded, authenticated rarity can be the difference between a cent and potentially a life-changing asset. Now let me leave you with this thought. Most people will watch this video, nod, and forget about it by tomorrow. But a small number of people will actually go check their change jars tonight. And that small difference in action? That's where financial stories quietly begin. So ask yourself one last time. Because sometimes, wealth doesn't come from working harder. It comes from finally noticing what everyone else overlooked. If you've ever dumped a jar of old pennies onto a table and thought, there's probably nothing valuable in here, you might want to stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to show you could completely change the way you look at everyday change forever. Hidden inside ordinary pocket change are coins that have quietly turned into life-changing assets. And one of the most talked about examples is the 1988 Lincoln Cent with a missing mint mark error that collectors have been chasing with intense demand. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Some reported sales and high-end listings suggest that rare error examples connected to this issue have been valued in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with certain claims reaching as high as $743,000 in premium condition verified error scenarios. Now, whether you believe that number or not, one thing is absolutely real. Serious collectors are aggressively hunting these pennies, and when demand spikes like this, opportunity follows fast. But before you dismiss this as just another coin story, stay with me because this is not about luck. This is about awareness. And awareness is exactly what separates people who overlook fortune from people who quietly build wealth from what everyone else ignores. Now let's go back to where it all begins. In Act 1, imagine yourself in the late 1980s. The United States Mint is producing billions of Lincoln pennies, and coins are rolling out of production lines in Philadelphia and Denver at speeds that feel almost mechanical. In that massive flow of copper-coated history, mistakes can happen. And when they do, they don't just disappear. They enter circulation unnoticed, quietly slipping into jars, wallets, and cash registers across America. The 1988 Lincoln Cent becomes one of those ordinary coins most people never think twice about. It looks normal, feels normal, it spends normally. But in rare cases, something unusual occurs during production or inspection. A coin that should carry a mint mark may appear without one under specific error conditions, or anomalies can surface that were never meant to exist in the final release. And here's the emotional trigger most people miss. The greatest treasures are almost always disguised as the most boring objects in your life. Now let's pause for a second, because here's a question you should be asking yourself right now. How many of these pennies have passed through your hands without you ever checking? That discomfort you feel? That's awareness waking up. Now we move into Act 2, where the story becomes even more compelling. Collectors and error coin specialists have spent decades studying Lincoln Cents, and what they've discovered is simple but powerful. Rarity is not always about age. It's about mistake, scarcity, and verification. A coin doesn't need to be ancient to be valuable. It just needs to be different in a way that can be proven authentic. This is where the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent enters the spotlight in online collector discussions and numismatic circles. While most 1988 pennies from Philadelphia are expected to have no mint mark by design, confusion and hype have surrounded certain error descriptions, leading collectors to examine strikes, doubling, misplacements, and rare anomalies under magnification. And this is where excitement turns into urgency. Because in the world of coin collecting, value is not just about what something is, it's about what someone is willing to pay when they need it badly enough. Some verified high-grade error coins, especially those with unusual minting characteristics and strong third-party grading authentication, have reportedly achieved extreme auction results. And in the rarest speculative cases circulating in collector discussions, values have been associated with figures reaching into the high six-figure range, even touching claims around $743,000 under exceptional conditions. Now let's stop for a moment, because I want you to feel this. Imagine holding a penny worth more than a luxury home. Imagine spending 1 cent and realizing it could have been your ticket to financial transformation. That's not fantasy for collectors. That is the emotional engine that drives this entire market. But here's the pattern interrupt you didn't expect. Most people will hear this and immediately think, yeah, right, I've never found anything valuable like that. And that mindset alone is exactly why they never will. Because opportunity in coin collecting doesn't reward belief. It rewards inspection. Look again. Look closer. Look differently. Now, as we move deeper into Act 2, let's talk about what actually drives demand. Wealthy collectors, numismatic investors, and auction houses don't chase coins because they are shiny. They chase them because they represent verified scarcity. A genuine mint error, especially one tied to a well-known series like the Lincoln Cent, creates a permanent record of rarity that cannot be replicated. And once a rare coin becomes known, urgency enters the market. Listings disappear. Prices rise. Serious buyers step in quickly. And suddenly, what was once pocket change becomes a high-stakes collectible asset. Now here's another reality check moment for you. How many coins have you already spent in your lifetime without ever looking at them twice? That question isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to sharpen your attention. because the difference between missing out and profiting often comes down to seconds of awareness. And now we enter Act 3, where everything comes together. At this point in the story, you're no longer just hearing about a penny. You're seeing a system where everyday objects circulate through millions of hands, and only a tiny fraction ever get noticed for their hidden value. The 1988 Lincoln cent error narrative represents something bigger than one coin. It represents a mindset shift. It tells you that wealth is not always created in Wall Street offices or business boardrooms. Sometimes it starts in a coffee can full of change sitting on a kitchen shelf. And here is where the urgency becomes real. Because every day that passes, rare coins are being lost back into circulation, damaged, spent, or forgotten. The longer they remain unidentified, the harder they become to recover in pristine condition. Condition matters. Verification matters. Timing matters. If you ever decide to check your pennies, the key is not just looking, but knowing what you're looking for. Weight differences, strike quality, minting anomalies, and professional grading are what separate common coins from exceptional finds. And once a coin is confirmed by professional grading services, its market perception changes instantly. This is where the emotional arc completes itself. What started as something insignificant becomes something powerful. What looked ordinary becomes something potentially extraordinary. And what most people ignore becomes something a small group of informed collectors actively pursue with urgency. So here's the final question I want you to sit with. If a single penny in your possession could potentially be worth life-changing money, would you even know it was there? Or more importantly, would you take the time to find it? Because in this world of coin collecting, fortunes don't always arrive loudly. Sometimes they sit quietly in a jar, waiting for someone with enough curiosity to finally take a closer look. And that might be the difference between simply watching opportunity and actually holding it in your hands. You're about to see something that could completely change the way you look at the change sitting in your pocket right now. Because what if I told you that a single 1-cent coin, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground, has reportedly been linked to valuations as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in rare discussions among collectors even approaching the $956,000 range for exceptional error specimens. Now, before you dismiss that, ask yourself, how many opportunities in life have you already overlooked simply because they look too ordinary? Let's begin. This is not just a coin. This is a story of hidden mistakes, minting secrets, and the silent world of collectors who move money like water in pursuit of the rarest pieces in American history. Today, we are focusing on a highly discussed variation of the Lincoln Penny series, the 1985 D Lincoln cent, struck at the Denver Mint, and the rare error conditions that can transform it from a common coin into a life-changing discovery. Now imagine this for a moment. You're sorting through an old coffee can of pennies. Nothing exciting, just copper and dust. Your mind says, this is probably worth a few dollars at best. But then something feels different. One coin doesn't quite match the rest. The strike looks unusual. The surface tells a different story. And suddenly your curiosity kicks in. That moment right there is where ordinary people become accidental treasure hunters. But here's where it gets intense. The 1985 D Lincoln penny is not rare in its standard form. Millions were minted. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. And this is where most people stop paying attention. But in the world of numismatics, it's not about what was made. It's about what was made wrong. And errors, those are where fortunes are born. We're talking about dramatic minting anomalies, double die features, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, and extreme surface deviations that escape the minting process unnoticed. These are not just mistakes. They are accidents that slip through one of the most controlled manufacturing systems in the world. Now here's where your attention really matters. Because certain reported examples of high-grade 1985 D Lincoln penny errors have attracted extraordinary collector demand. In rare auction discussions and private sales circles, elite condition error specimens have been associated with valuations reaching into the high six figures, and in extreme speculative cases discussed among advanced collectors, figures approaching $956,000 have been mentioned for near-perfect, historically significant anomalies. We are talking about a 1-cent coin that could potentially rival the value of a luxury home. And if you're thinking, that sounds too good to be true, pause right there, because that skepticism is exactly why these coins are still being found in circulation, estate jars, old drawers, and inherited collections. Here's the twist most people miss. The difference between a worthless penny and a life-changing coin is often invisible to the untrained eye. It's not about age alone. It's not about shine. It's about error structure, strike precision, and rarity density within a specific mint year. Now imagine this, you're watching this video, and somewhere in your house right now there's a container of coins you haven't touched in years. And in that container could be something that collectors actively search for every single day. This is where fear quietly enters the picture. Because the real risk is not losing money, it's ignoring money you already own. But let's shift that energy. Because this is also about excitement. The idea that wealth doesn't always come from Wall Street or business deals. Sometimes it comes from observation, from patience, from knowing what others don't bother to look for. Now here comes the pattern interrupt. Quick question for you. If I handed you a penny right now and told you it might be worth more than your car, would you even believe me? Or would you laugh and toss it back into the jar? Most people laugh. Until someone else cashes in. Let's continue. The key indicators collectors look for in these rare 1985 D Lincoln cent anomalies include unusual doubling in lettering, especially in Liberty or in God We Trust, off-center striking that leaves part of the coin design dramatically shifted, or unusual metallic composition differences that suggest a minting error in the planchet stage. And here's where urgency becomes real. Because coins like this are not sitting in museums. They are not locked away. They are still circulating, still being spent, still being thrown into jars, vending machines, and forgotten collections every single day. Right now, somewhere in the United States, someone is unknowingly handing over a coin that could be worth thousands or even far more to the right buyer. And that person could be you if you're not paying attention. Now let's go deeper into mindset. Wealth in the coin collecting world doesn't belong to the fastest. It belongs to the most observant. The people who understand that value is not always obvious. That sometimes the smallest objects carry the biggest stories. And the Lincoln Penny series is one of the most collected in American history, which means competition is fierce, demand is constant, and true errors are fought over aggressively by collectors and investors who understand long-term value preservation. So if you're watching this and feeling that spark of curiosity, that's not random. That's awareness kicking in. We're reaching the final act now. Because here's the truth that changes everything. The difference between someone who watches videos like this for entertainment and someone who actually benefits from them is action. Not luck, not timing. Action. Go through your old jars. Check inherited collections. Look closely at those 1985 D pennies. Use magnification if needed. Pay attention to detail that others ignore. Because history has shown again and again that life-changing coins are not always found in auctions or collections, and maybe, just maybe, the next headline-worthy discovery is already sitting in your possession right now, waiting for you to notice it. So before you move on to the next video, ask yourself one final question. What if the penny you ignored yesterday is the opportunity someone else will wish they had found tomorrow? Stay alert, stay curious, and remember, sometimes wealth doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes, it's already in your pocket. In a world where most people walk past pennies without a second glance, there exists a hidden layer of American currency history that quietly changes lives. A layer where a simple 1-cent coin, something you'd normally ignore at the bottom of a drawer or inside an old jar, can suddenly become a 5-figure, even 6-figure opportunity. Today, we're stepping into that world with one of the most intriguing and misunderstood coins in modern collecting. The 1978 Lincoln Penny with no mint mark and rare error varieties that have captured serious attention in the U.S. collector market. And yes, there are claims and listings in rare cases reaching as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars for exceptional verified specimens. Now before you dismiss this as just another coin story, let me ask you something. What if the next penny you find in your pocket change is not worth 1 cent, but enough to change the way you think about money forever? Funny how something so small can carry such massive potential, isn't it? The story starts in 1978, a time when American pockets were filled with Lincoln pennies produced primarily at the Philadelphia Mint, often without a mint mark. To most people, that detail means nothing. But to collectors, that tiny absence, the missing S or D, can sometimes signal the beginning of something extraordinary. Not every no-mint mark penny is rare, but certain error varieties, misstrikes, off-center prints, double dies, and planchet abnormalities have been known to turn ordinary coins into high-demand collectibles. And here's where things get interesting. Because while millions of 1978 pennies were produced, only a microscopic fraction contain the kinds of anomalies that serious collectors and auction houses fight over. We're talking about coins that escaped quality control, coins that were struck in unusual conditions, and coins that somehow survived decades without damage. Imagine that for a moment. A tiny copper witness of history, passed from hand to hand, completely unnoticed, until someone with trained eyes finally realizes what it is. Let's pause for a second. If you're thinking, yeah, right, I've seen pennies before, just stick with me. Because most people think that right before they discover something valuable in their own home. Now we move into the second act, the discovery. Picture a retired worker in the United States, sorting through a jar of old change collected over decades. Nothing special at first. Pennies, nickels, dimes, all mixed together like forgotten memories. But then something catches the light differently. One coin looks slightly off. The lettering is not perfectly aligned. The surface has a strange doubling effect, almost like the design was stamped twice with a slight shift. That's the moment everything changes. This is where collectors get excited. This is where auctions begin. And this is where stories of six-figure pennies start circulating. Now let's be clear. Not every 1978 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is valuable. In fact, most are still worth face value. But the reason this topic creates so much excitement is because the rare exceptions can command astonishing attention. Verified high-grade error coins with dramatic minting mistakes, strong eye appeal, and certification have been known to attract aggressive bidding from collectors and investors who understand scarcity. And scarcity is the key word here. Because in the world of numismatics, value is not just about age, it's about rarity, condition, and demand converging at the same point in time. When those three forces align, prices can escalate dramatically. Some reported auction discussions and private listings have suggested figures reaching into the hundreds of thousands for exceptional specimens, with $759,000 often cited in collector circles for top-tier, unique error examples in extraordinary condition. Whether every claim reaches that level or not, the message is clear. The ceiling for rare coins is far higher than most people ever imagine. Let me break your attention for a second. Quick question. If someone handed you a coin right now and said it might be worth $10,000, would you spend the next 30 seconds checking it? Or would you shrug it off? That single decision is exactly what separates casual observers from serious finders. Now back to the story. As awareness grows, more Americans are revisiting old collections, inherited coin jars, forgotten drawers, and even couch cushions. Yes, couch cushions have produced surprises before. And what they're learning is powerful. The coin market rewards attention. It rewards patience. And it rewards knowledge. The 1978 Lincoln penny becomes especially interesting because it sits in that transitional modern era where minting processes were advanced, yet still imperfect enough to allow occasional errors to slip through. These imperfections include double die obverse, where the lettering appears slightly duplicated, off-center strikes where the design is misaligned, and planchet defects where the metal blank itself was flawed before striking. Each of these is like a fingerprint, unique, unrepeatable, and therefore valuable to the right buyer. Now imagine holding one of these coins. It doesn't look like much at first glance. But under magnification, the truth reveals itself. Suddenly, what looked ordinary becomes a conversation piece. And in the right market conditions, a bidding war. Let's shift into something important here: momentum. Because the modern coin market is not slowing down. In fact, interest in rare U.S. coinage has been steadily increasing as more collectors enter the space and more investors look for tangible assets. Coins like the 1978 Lincoln penny errors are part of a larger movement where everyday people are rediscovering hidden value in everyday objects. If you have old coins sitting at home, whether inherited, collected, or simply forgotten, this is the moment to look closer. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Because the reality is simple. Valuable coins don't announce themselves. They wait, quietly, until someone pays attention. Let me interrupt that thought with a bit of humor, because this is important. Most people treat pennies like they're trash. They'll toss them into jars, glove compartments, even laundry machines. Meanwhile, somewhere out there, a coin collector is probably looking at a penny with a magnifier like it's the Mona Lisa of pocket change. Same coin, different awareness. At this stage, the question is no longer whether rare pennies exist. The question is whether you have ever taken the time to look. And if you haven't, you are exactly the type of person who might already own something interesting without realizing it. Professional graders and collectors look for a few key indicators: sharpness of detail, unusual markings, doubling effects, minting inconsistencies, and overall condition. Coins that appear untouched, well-preserved, and visually striking tend to attract the most attention. When those traits combine with rarity, the value can escalate quickly in competitive markets. And yes, while most coins will not reach extreme figures, the upper tier of verified error coins continues to attract serious collector demand, sometimes reaching extraordinary valuations in specialized auctions. You don't need to be an expert to start. You just need to start looking. That jar in your kitchen, that old box in the garage, that inherited collection you never sorted through. It all becomes relevant now. Because opportunity doesn't always arrive in obvious packaging. Sometimes it shows up as a 1978 penny. And if you take anything from this video, let it be this: attention creates opportunity. Most people overlook value simply because they assume it isn't there. But history has proven again and again that hidden treasures often sit in plain sight, so the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Hold it. Look at it. Question it. Because in the world of rare coins, the difference between 1 cent and one life-changing discovery is just awareness. If you have a jar of old coins sitting at home, what I'm about to show you could completely change the way you look at everyday pocket change forever. Because hidden among ordinary-looking pennies from the United States in 1971 is a type of coin that collectors don't just casually admire. They aggressively hunt for. And in rare cases, certain 1971 Lincoln 1-cent pieces with unusual characteristics have been tied to extraordinary auction attention and high-value demand in the numismatic market, with some discussions and listings reaching into the high-end collector range that most people would never expect from a single penny. Now imagine this for a second: you reach into a dusty jar, pull out a penny, and instead of 1 cent, it represents a life-changing opportunity. A coin that most people ignore without a second thought could potentially be the same type of coin serious collectors pay close attention to every single year. And here's the real question: what if you already had one and didn't even know it? We are about to walk through a story in 3 powerful acts: discovery, revelation, and action. And by the end of this video, you won't look at loose change the same way again. Picture this. It's the early 1970s in the United States. Inflation is shifting, America is changing, and millions of Lincoln pennies are being struck every day. The 1971 Lincoln cent enters circulation quietly, without celebration, without headlines, without anyone thinking twice. Most of these coins were produced in massive quantities, making them extremely common. And that's exactly why most people dismiss them today. But here's where it gets interesting. Lean in for this part, because not every coin from 1971 is the same. Some were struck with subtle differences, minor minting quirks, and rare production anomalies that escaped the attention of everyday circulation. And in the world of coin collecting, those small imperfections are where the real stories begin. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the most valuable things in life are often the ones people almost throw away? A penny in your pocket, a painting in an attic, a forgotten photograph in a box. Now, imagine someone in 1971 dropping a coin that should have been standard, but something went slightly off during production. A small variation, a rare misalignment, a subtle minting detail that most eyes would never catch. At the time, it was nothing. Today, it could be a completely different story. And yes, I know what you're thinking right now. It's just a penny. But so was almost every legendary coin. Until someone looked closer. Let's step into the world of collectors for a moment. In the numismatic market, value is not just about age or metal. It's about rarity, condition, and error. And this is where certain 1971 Lincoln cents become interesting to serious buyers. Some coins from this era, when found in exceptional condition or associated with rare minting variations, have attracted strong demand in auctions and private collections. In highly competitive bidding environments, rare error coins or pristine specimens can command attention that drives prices far beyond face value. Now pause for a second, because this is where emotion kicks in: fear. Because most people have no idea what is sitting in their home right now. Excitement, because the possibility exists that something ordinary could be extraordinary. And urgency, because these coins don't sit waiting forever. They move. They are discovered, collected, and removed from circulation every single day. Let me break your attention for a moment. Quick question: if I told you that something worth potentially hundreds, thousands, or in rare documented collector cases significantly more could be hiding in your house right now, would you check today or someday? Be honest, because someday is exactly where valuable coins disappear forever. Now, let's go deeper. The 1971 Lincoln cent becomes interesting in certain conditions: high-grade preservation, unusual strike characteristics, or rare minting errors that distinguish it from standard circulation coins. Collectors often pay premiums for coins that are certified and verified by professional grading services, especially when population reports show scarcity. And here's the twist most people miss. It's not just about finding a rare coin, it's about recognizing it before everyone else does. Because once awareness spreads in collector communities, demand increases, competition rises, and values can shift quickly based on market activity, auctions, and collector interest. And yes, there have been documented cases in the broader coin collecting world where rare pennies and error coins have reached extraordinary auction results, sometimes reaching into extremely high-value territory when condition and rarity align at the highest level. Now I want you to imagine something. You open an old box. You find a penny. It looks ordinary, but something tells you to look again. You check it. You research it. And suddenly, your heart starts beating faster. That's not just a coin anymore. That's possibility. That's leveraged. That's history in your hand. Now let's bring this back to reality. The truth is, most people will watch this and do nothing. They'll think it's interesting, maybe even fascinating, and then they'll go back to ignoring their change jar. But a small group, a smart group, will take action. They'll go home. They'll look through their coins. They'll separate pennies from different years. They'll pay attention to details they never noticed before. And that is exactly how discoveries are made. Let me be very clear with you. You are not late to awareness, but you are at the perfect moment of curiosity. Because once you understand that everyday coins can carry collector demand, everything changes. You stop seeing pennies as currency and start seeing them as artifacts. And here's something powerful to remember. Every major coin discovery story started with someone asking one simple question. Now, before you rush off, here's the mindset shift you need. This is not about chasing instant wealth. This is about understanding value hiding in plain sight. It's about developing an eye for rarity. It's about recognizing that markets, especially collectible markets, reward knowledge, timing, and attention to detail. And yes, in some cases, coins like the 1971 Lincoln cent with rare characteristics or exceptional preservation have attracted serious collector attention and strong market demand, especially when authenticated and graded properly. If you're feeling that mix of curiosity and urgency right now, that's exactly the point. That feeling is what drives discovery. Not panic, but awareness. And here's the final thought I want to leave you with. The difference between someone who finds valuable coins and someone who doesn't is never luck alone. It's the willingness to look closer when everyone else walks past. So today, don't ignore the change jar. Don't dismiss the old coins. Don't assume it's just a penny. Because sometimes, the smallest objects carry the biggest stories. And sometimes, those stories carry value far beyond what anyone expects. If you enjoyed this deep dive into hidden coin potential, stay tuned. Because next time we'll uncover another overlooked piece of American coin history that collectors are actively searching for right now, and most people still don't even know it exists. In the quiet corners of American homes, inside old jars, dusty cigar boxes, and forgotten piggy banks, there is something extraordinary hiding in plain sight. Something so small it can be mistaken for pocket change. Yet so powerful it has quietly changed lives overnight. What if I told you that a simple 1968 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people would never look at twice, has been linked to valuations as high as $913,000 in rare, highly authenticated error conditions? Now, before you dismiss that as impossible, stay with me, because what you're about to hear could be the difference between overlooking a fortune and recognizing one. And here's the real shocker. Most people who own these coins have no idea they even matter. You might be sitting on one right now. Not in a vault, not in a museum, but in a drawer, a cup holder, or mixed in with loose change from a grocery store run. And today we're going to uncover exactly why this tiny copper coin has become one of the most talked about hidden treasures in modern American coin collecting. In 1968, the United States Mint reintroduced the S Mint mark on coins produced in San Francisco, marking a new era of production and precision. The Lincoln penny, already a staple of American currency since 1909, continued its legacy with billions struck for everyday circulation. But within that massive production run, something unusual happened. And in the world of coin collecting, unusual is where value is born. Now imagine this. A coin is struck under pressure measured in tons. One tiny misalignment, one microscopic error in the die, one moment of mechanical imperfection. And suddenly, a standard penny becomes something entirely different. Rare, collectible, and in some cases, life-changing. Here's where things start to get interesting. Because not all 1968's Lincoln pennies are valuable. In fact, almost all of them are worth exactly 1 cent, but a select few, the ones with verified minting errors. Those are the ones that command attention from elite collectors, auction houses, and high-end numismatic investors who treat coins the way Wall Street treats blue-chip stocks. And yes, that's where figures like $913,000 come into the conversation. Now I know what you're thinking. A penny? Worth nearly $1 million. Sounds unbelievable, right? That's exactly why so many people miss it. Because disbelief is often the first barrier between ordinary and extraordinary value. Let me ask you something. If you found a penny on the ground right now, would you even bend down to pick it up? Or would you walk past it without a second thought, like most people do every single day? That single habit, that split-second decision, is exactly why rare coin discoveries still happen in 2026. Now let's go deeper. The real value in a 1968's penny isn't just the date or the mint mark. It's the error variations that can occur during production. Some coins were struck with misaligned dies, creating subtle doubling effects. Others show weak strikes, off-center images, or unusual metal anomalies that should not exist in normal mint condition. And here's where things get intense. Because in the world of high-value coins, the smallest imperfection can multiply value exponentially. Not linearly, exponentially. A normal penny. 1 cent, a rare error penny, hundreds, thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars when certified and auctioned under competitive bidding. And this is where collectors lean in closer, because they understand something most people don't. Rarity creates urgency. Urgency creates demand. And demand drives price into territory most people would never expect from something made of copper and zinc. Let's pause for a moment. If you're thinking, this sounds too complex for me, let me stop you right there. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You don't need expensive equipment. And no, you don't need to spend your weekends studying mint catalogs like it's a college degree. But you do need awareness. Because awareness is what separates someone who casually spends rare coins from someone who recognizes wealth hiding in plain sight. Now, let's talk about what makes these coins so heavily sought after. In rare cases, 1968's Lincoln pennies with dramatic minting errors have surfaced in auctions where competitive collectors push prices into extreme territory. When a coin is authenticated, graded at a high level, and confirmed as a genuine mint error, it enters a completely different financial category. We're no longer talking about pocket change. We're talking about collectible assets. And here's where the emotional reality hits. Every year, coins like these are found in inherited collections, estate sales, old coffee cans, and forgotten drawers after decades of sitting untouched. And in many cases, they are spent unknowingly or sold for pennies on the dollar before their true identity is discovered. That's the part that creates urgency. Because once a rare coin leaves your hands, it rarely comes back. Let me break the tension for a moment. If you're imagining yourself running to the bank with a magnifying glass and yelling at the cashier about pennies, don't worry. You don't have to go that far. But you do need to start paying attention. Now let's move into what actually matters when identifying a potential high-value 1968's Lincoln penny. Collectors look for anomalies in strike quality, unusual doubling in lettering, misalignment of design elements, and anything that suggests the coin was not produced under standard mint conditions. Even the texture, luster, and edge consistency can tell a deeper story about its origin. And here's the key insight most beginners miss. It's not about finding a different-looking penny. It's about finding a penny that shouldn't exist in perfect circulation condition, but somehow does. That contradiction is where value is born. Now imagine this scenario. You're sorting through a handful of change at night. Nothing special, just a routine moment, and then something catches your eye. A penny that looks slightly off. Not dramatically, just enough to make you pause. That pause, that instinct, is exactly how discoveries begin. Most people ignore it, but collectors, they investigate. And investigation leads to authentication. Authentication leads to grading, and grading leads to market demand. And suddenly, what was once 1 cent becomes something far more significant. Now we arrive at the final stage of this journey. Because knowledge without action is just information that if you believe you may have old pennies stored away, especially from the late 1960s, now is the time to look closer. Not with panic, not with obsession, but with awareness. Check your collections. Review inherited coins. Look through old jars and forgotten boxes. Because the next significant discovery doesn't have to come from a museum or a professional dealer. And here's the truth that drives serious collectors every single day. Opportunities like this do not announce themselves loudly. They appear quietly, disguised as ordinary objects, waiting for someone who understands their language. The 1968 Lincoln penny is not just a piece of history. In rare cases, it is a financial anomaly, collectible asset, and for some, a life-changing discovery. So the question is not whether these coins exist. The question is whether you'll recognize one before it's gone. Because in the world of rare coins, timing isn't just important. And what you choose to look at today might be worth far more than you ever imagined tomorrow. In the quiet hum of everyday life, in jars sitting on kitchen counters, in old coffee cans tucked away in garages across America, there may be something hiding in plain sight that could change everything you thought you knew about money. Something so small it fits between your fingertips, yet so powerful that collectors and investors have reportedly pushed its value into the realm of life-changing wealth. Today, we are talking about the 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin surrounded by mystery, debate, and viral claims that it could be worth as much as $834,000 in the right condition, under the right circumstances, in the right collector market. Now, before you dismiss this as just another coin story, pause for a second. Because most people who overlook these stories are the same ones who later find out they were sitting on opportunity the entire time. And let me ask you something right now. When was the last time you actually looked at your spare change? Not just tossed it into a drawer, but really looked at it? Funny how something so ordinary can quietly carry extraordinary potential. Picture this. It's 1967. The United States is in a period of transition. The economy is shifting, coin production is evolving, and millions of pennies are being struck and released into circulation. Most of them are common. Most of them are ignored. But hidden within that massive production run are anomalies, variations, mistakes. And in the world of coin collecting, mistakes are where fortunes are often born. The 1967 Lincoln penny is known for having no mint mark, which at first glance might seem unusual to the untrained eye. Many collectors instantly assume no mint mark equals rarity. But here is where the truth gets layered, and where attention separates the casual observer from the serious wealth seeker. In 1967, pennies from the Philadelphia Mint were produced without mint marks by design. So technically, no mint mark alone does not make it rare. But stay with me, because this is where most people stop listening, and where the opportunity-minded keep going. Because within that standard production, there are error coins. And error coins are where the real value explosions happen in numismatics. We are talking about double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and other minting anomalies that transform a 1-cent piece into a collector's obsession. In rare cases, especially when the coin is preserved in near-perfect condition, graded at the highest levels, and authenticated by top-tier grading services, the value can escalate dramatically. Some listings and high-end auction discussions have placed exceptional error specimens in the hundreds of thousands range, with sensational claims reaching figures like $834,000. Now let me be clear with you, this is not about every 1967 penny in circulation. If it were that easy, we would all be wealthy just from pocket change. But here's the excitement. The possibility exists within the rarest subsets. And possibility, in the world of collectibles, is often enough to ignite serious demand. Let's slow down for a moment. Imagine holding a penny in your hand that most people would walk past without a second thought. You tilt it under the light, and something feels off. The strike looks slightly misaligned. The details seem doubled. The surface has a strange texture that doesn't match ordinary circulation where your curiosity kicks in. That small moment of doubt could be the beginning of something extraordinary. Wait, did that just make you want to check your wallet? Good, that's the point. Because attention is everything in this space. Collectors, investors, and dealers are constantly scanning for overlooked gems. The difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth thousands, or even potentially far more in exceptional cases, is often found in microscopic details that most people never think to inspect. Now here's where urgency comes in. These coins are not sitting in vaults waiting for you to discover them neatly labeled. They are moving through circulation. They are sitting in inherited collections. They are tucked away in jars that have not been opened in decades. And every year that passes, more of them are lost, spent, or damaged beyond collectible condition. The market for rare pennies has remained strong because demand never truly disappears. In fact, as more people enter the hobby, competition for high-grade, verified error coins continues to intensify. Wealthy collectors are not just buying coins, they are competing for history, for rarity, for status pieces that very few others can own. Let's talk about what separates an ordinary 1967 penny from a potentially valuable one. Condition is everything. A coin that looks like it just left the mint carries a dramatically different profile than one that has been heavily circulated. Then there are errors, the true accelerators of value. A subtle doubling in the lettering, a misalignment in the strike, a rare die variety that was only used briefly before being corrected. These are the characteristics that can turn an overlooked coin into a headline-worthy discovery. And here is the emotional truth most people miss. The real excitement is not just in the value itself, it's in the discovery, the moment of realization, the instant when something ordinary becomes extraordinary in your hands. That shift is what drives collectors across generations. Now imagine this scenario. You take a handful of old pennies, maybe from an inherited collection or a forgotten jar. You start examining them one by one. First, nothing special. Then suddenly, one stands out. You feel that small spark of uncertainty. You research it. You compare it. You dig deeper. And slowly, the possibility begins to form that you may be holding something far more significant than you ever imagined. This is how real discoveries happen. Not in auctions, not in museums, but in living rooms, garages, and quiet Sunday afternoons. As we move toward the final part of this story, there is something important to understand. The world of rare coins rewards attention, patience, and awareness. It does not reward rushing. It does not reward guessing. It rewards those who learn to see what others ignore. So here is the takeaway. The 1967 Lincoln penny, especially in its no-mint mark form, is not automatically a jackpot. But within its population exists a narrow and highly sought-after category of error coins and high-grade specimens that continue to attract strong collector demand and, in exceptional cases, extremely high valuations reported in the marketplace. And if there is even a small chance that something like that is sitting in your possession right now, then ignoring it might be the most expensive mistake of all. So the next time you hear coins clinking in your hand, don't dismiss them. Look closer, because wealth has a strange habit of hiding in places people stop paying attention to. And who knows, the next penny you check might not just be change. It might be opportunity.